Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be providing an update on none other than Bitfarms Ltd. This is one of my favorite companies in the market right now. They're involved in the cryptocurrency mining space. They just came out with very impressive Q1 results for 2022 and some big developments that we're going to talk about in today's presentation. Now before we get into it, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of Bitfarms, what you think about their business model, and how they stack up to some of the other miners we've covered on this channel previously. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, I wanted to provide a quick update on Bitfarms Ltd. As most of you are aware, this is a company I've been actively buying and adding in my personal portfolio over the last couple of months as we've seen a pullback in Bitcoin overall on a macro scale. Obviously, these miners have pulled back in unison, and I think this is providing an awesome buying opportunity or a golden opportunity for people that are looking for exposure to the crypto space. Now, I have a 5-year chart pulled up here for a very specific reason, so you can see as of close on Wednesday, May 25th, Bitfarms closed out the session at $2.16 Canadian. And based on that, we're now sitting at a market cap of sub $450 million Canadian, or about $350 million US. Now, what's interesting here is based on this close at $2.16, this is actually the lowest we've seen this company since about the middle of December of 2020. So 2 years ago, this company was trading at the same share price as it is today, which we're going to actually analyze a little bit later in today's presentation, because given the amount of growth at this company over the last 24 months, the amount of progression, the increase in their Bitcoin reserve, their hash rate, the number of facilities they have up and operational, I think it's absolutely mind-blowing that they're trading at the same share price they were all the way back in December of 2020. Now, in addition to that, we're also going to talk about their Q1 earnings for 2022, which just came out a couple of weeks ago here. So a lot to unpack in today's presentation. And with that being said, let's get into it. Now, before we get into the exciting Q1 results and start to talk about this divergence we're seeing in the cryptocurrency space, I wanted to give a quick high-level summary of Bitfarms Ltd. And their business model for those of you who aren't super familiar with this company. So they're really a vertically integrated global Bitcoin mining operation. As you can see here, they have 9 sites currently up and operational. The majority of these are located here in Canada, in Quebec. So 7 of the 9 facilities are here in Canada, but they've also got operations in Washington in the United States and in Paraguay in South America. So you are really getting that geographic exposure or diversification compared to Hut 8 Mining that's located primarily here in Canada. Now, the other thing I wanted to call out about this company, there's a number of really key pillars or takeaways. So huge market opportunity. Obviously, for those of us who believe in the long-term success or opportunity surrounding cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin, they're a decentralized self-miner. So because of their vertical integration, they're actually able to avoid third-party fees and reduce risk of disruption due to that geographic diversification. They've got scale and expertise. So again, they've got 9 farms currently up and operational and 5 years experience with the design, technical knowledge, and operational skill. And they now power in the neighborhood of about 1.5% of the total Bitcoin network. Again, vertical integration here. So the bottom left, you guys, increasing the speed of development with wholly owned electrical engineering subsidiaries, reducing the downtime for their machines. And they've also got that authorized in-house repair lab. So they're able to get their machines back online in a very timely manner. The low cost production. So this is something we've talked about on the channel extensively with a lot of these different miners. But the nice thing here, you guys, is Bitfarms is one of the lowest cost producers in the category. Their average Bitcoin cost cost for Q1 of 2022, which we're going to see in the earnings release next up, actually came in at an average of $8,700. And I should note that's expressed in US dollars. So although we've seen the price of Bitcoin decline dramatically over the last couple of months, and we're actually going to address that later in today's presentation, we're still sitting in the neighborhood of about $30,000 US per Bitcoin. So an input cost of under $9,000, you guys, still provides a tremendous opportunity for this company to create value and leads to very impressive margins, which we're going to look at in the next article here. Now, the final point, or the sixth point on the slide here that you really need to understand about Bitfarms Ltd is the entrepreneurial team behind this company. So they've got a deep background in data center industry, technology, finance, and business growth, and they've really pulled together an all-star cast here that's led to this company's growth over the last couple of quarters. So now that we've summarized some of the key ways that Bitfarms has differentiated themselves from some of the other players in this space, we've looked at their operations and the 6 key pillars behind this company. I wanted to move into the earnings report. This is really the feature of today's video. It came out May 16th, so I apologize that I didn't get this video out sooner, but there's a number of key takeaways that I wanted to bring up in this release. So first and foremost, you guys, they mined 961 Bitcoin in the first quarter of 2022, which is absolutely phenomenal and a record for the company, again at an average cost of $8,700 per Bitcoin. Their revenue improved to $40 million in Q1 of 2022, which was up 42% from the $28 million they produced in Q1 of last year, so a year-over-year comparison. And their adjusted EBITDA came in at $32 million for the quarter, again up from $20 million in Q1 of last year. So very impressive year-over-year growth. And again, that's despite this massive pullback we've seen in the price of Bitcoin in the first quarter of 2022. And that's exactly what the COO, or Chief Operating Officer, calls out in his remarks here. We delivered another profitable quarter in Q1 of 2022. Even with the decline in the price of Bitcoin, revenues were up 42% compared to Q1 of 2021. Now, Jeff goes on to say, we have grown faster than the Bitcoin network as our hash rate at quarter end was 2.7 exahash per second, which is up 22% from December 31st of 2021. And as of today, our hash rate is now sitting at 3.4 exahash per second, representing about 1.5% of the overall market share. Our global expansion continued in Q1 of 2022 as production started at the Bunker and Ledger facilities in the city of Sherbrooke, Quebec, as well as at the facility in Paraguay. We also acquired a new Sherbrooke location, which we refer to as Garlock, which will eventually replace their existing De La Pointe facility with 137 megawatts of productive capacity and a total of 229 megawatts planned to be operational this year. We are moving forward with our increases in hash rate. In the near term, we expect to exceed 4.0 exahash per second by June 30th of 2022. So you can see whether you're talking about the hash rate, the number of facilities that are up and operational, or the actual electrical capacity of their portfolio, Bitfarms is making massive strides across the board. Now, another couple highlights I wanted to call out. Q1 net income came in at positive $5 million, which was up from a net loss of $8 million in Q1 of last year. However, they did see a sequential quarter-over-quarter decline. We saw $10 million in net income in Q4 of 2021. That's now down to $5 million in Q1 of 2022. That's a direct reflection on the price of Bitcoin. Gross margins declined to 76%. This was impacted by the price of Bitcoin. This was actually down from 80% year over year, so Q1 of last year, and 84% in Q4 of last year. So again, to put this in perspective, you guys, gross margins declined to 76%. In any other business, 76% gross margins is absolutely unheard of. Most sectors are in the neighborhood of about 20, 30, 35%. So to decline to 76% from 84% is still phenomenal in my mind. And again, really speaks to that low cost of production, or cost per Bitcoin, that we talked about in the intro. And the other thing I wanted to call out here is, as of March 31st of 2022, Bitfarms had $77 million in cash and a Bitcoin reserve valued at approximately $239 million. Now that's based on a US price of $45,500 per Bitcoin. So obviously that's dropped down a little bit, but still hundreds of millions millions of dollars in terms of their Bitcoin reserve. And keep in mind, this company now has a market cap sub $350 million US. So the fact that they've got hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in Bitcoin, plus $77 million in cash, plus these 9 operational facilities really starts to make this look very attractive as an investment opportunity. Now, we talked about their big purchase. They purchased 1,000 Bitcoin for $43 million on January 6th of 2022. That really helped bolster that treasury reserve. And they had 2 big financing developments in the quarter. On February 24th, they entered into a $32 million equipment financing agreement. And on March 28th, they actually expanded their borrowing capacity under the Bitcoin-backed credit facility to $100 million, up from the previous $60 million threshold. So very well financed, and again, able to weather this downturn we've seen in the Bitcoin market over the last couple of months. So in my opinion, a very strong quarter from the team at Bitfarms, despite some of these macro headwinds we're seeing in the cryptocurrency market. Now, in terms of their 2022 expansion plans, this is where it gets really exciting for me as an investor in this company. So in terms of their computing capacity, they're looking to expand to 6.0 exahash per second by the end of this year. So phenomenal increase in exahash or production levels over the last 12 months. And they actually give a breakdown by quarter. So as of June 30th, 4.0 exahash, September 30th, 4.2, and by December 31st, or the last day of this year, they expect to be at 6.0 exahash per second. So over a 2x increase in terms of where they ended Q1 of this year. And I would say this 6.0 exahash is actually on the conservative side, because if you go on to read here, you can see there's other opportunities that are being evaluated that could provide the additional infrastructure to actually reach 8.0 exahash per second by the end of this year. So anywhere from 6 to 8 exahash per second by the end of 2022. So again, very encouraging growth here, and this is exactly what we're going to talk about as we get into the next article, talking about this divergence between crypto miners and the underlying price of crypto. Now, the other thing I wanted to call out, a nice little quarter over quarter chart here showing the actual production cost of each Bitcoin at Bitfarms. So you can see Q1 came in at $8,700 US compared to $8,000 in Q4 of last year. However, their production costs have been relatively stable over the last 5 quarters, and you can see this $8,700 is among the lowest reported in the entire industry. So this is definitely one of the factors or variables that I look at when I'm making my investment in these mining companies. Now, with that being said, that's a perfect segue to this article here. It's from the Motley Fool, and it talks about a massive divergence that's been building in the crypto mining stocks over the last couple of trading sessions. So this came out on May 20th. It talks specifically about the share price moves we've seen in some of the Chinese-based crypto mining companies compared to those based in other parts of the world, specifically Bitmining and Canaan. And as we all know, the Chinese government has really cracked down on crypto mining quite severely over the last couple of quarters. That's really led to a lot of these companies relocating to North America here, where there's much more favorable mining environment or legislative climate. But what we're starting to see now or hear murmurs of is actually the Chinese regulatory environment starting to shift. So they may be less interested now with enforcing these previously communicated harsh crackdowns. And although it's still unclear to what extent this regulatory policy has changed, we're starting to see some positive developments and price action in these Chinese-based crypto mining companies, again, like Bitmining and Canaan. So this was a really interesting article, and it actually got the gears going for me. Not only are we starting to see a divergence in the actual mining companies compared to their peers around the world, but we're also starting to see a divergence in the price of crypto compared to the value of these crypto mining companies. So what I have here is actually a comparison of the share price of Bitfarms Ltd, again, the Canadian ticker here, so bitfarms.to, versus Bitcoin price in Canadian dollars. So as you can see right now, again, as of close on Wednesday, May 25th, Bitcoin is sitting right around $38,000 Canadian, and Bitfarms closed out the day at $2.16. Now, in the intro, I talked about the last time we saw Bitfarms Ltd trading at this share price was back in December of 2020. Again, you can see a very similar share price to where we're trading at now in the $2.11 range. Now, what's interesting here is if you look up up to the top left, you can see Bitcoin at that point in time was trading in the $33,000 or $34,000 Canadian range. So not only is Bitcoin now trading about $4,000 higher than it was back in December of 2020, but we've also had all of these major developments at the company, like the growth in hash rate, like the expansion of their facilities, the international expansion, the purchase of that big deposit or Bitcoin reserve, the growth in their hash rate, the computing power, the exponential growth in their monthly Bitcoin production, and we're now still trading at the same share price we were 2 years ago. So again, based on my analysis of this company, I think a lot of these factors really aren't being priced in. People are simply looking at the price of Bitcoin and saying, oh my God, Bitcoin is dropping. I need to sell out of anything related to Bitcoin. And they're not actually looking at the fundamentals of these businesses. Now, the other thing I should note is this also works the other way as well. So if we go to actually the highs, we saw at around $11 Canadian back in November of 2021. This is when Bitcoin was trading in the $82,000 range Canadian. So although you see these overemphasized moves to the downside, you're also going to see them on the moves to the upside. And that's exactly what I'm looking to take advantage of as an investor in this company. Now, we all know the market is irrational. It overreacts to both sides of the equation. So the market right now, in my opinion, is overreacting to the downside. And I'm going to take advantage of that when we finally do swing and start to see some bullish moves in Bitcoin, and correspondingly the companies like Bitfarms and Hut 8 that are closely associated or linked to the price of Bitcoin. Now, what's crazy about that comparison is if we actually look back to where Bitfarms was as a company in 2020, you can see their total capacity was sitting under 70 megawatts. It came in at about 69 megawatts total across their whole portfolio. They didn't have their Washington, Paraguay, or Argentina facilities online, and they hadn't scaled up production at a number of their locations here in Canada. So if we compare where they were as a company in 2020 at 69 megawatt capacity to where they are now or expected to be by the end of 2022 at 229 megawatts in terms of overall capacity, the company has grown exponentially over the last 2 years. So although the price of Bitcoin is very similar to where we saw in 2020, the actual fundamental value of the company far exceeds where they were just a couple of years ago. They have more locations, they have more equipment, they have a much larger Bitcoin reserve, and they're producing exponentially more Bitcoin each and every month compared to their operations in 2020. So in my mind, this is not being factored into the current share price or market cap of Bitfarms or Hut 8 Mining, and actually the majority of these crypto mining companies in general right now. And this is why I believe there's such a great opportunity in the Bitcoin mining sector over the next couple of years. And again, this is this divergence we're talking about in the actual underlying price of the commodity compared to the value of the companies that are actually doing the mining activity. So for that reason, you guys, in addition to the impressive Q1 results that we just talked about in today's presentation, I definitely think this company is worth a look. Again, for full disclosure, I'm currently long on Bitfarms. I hold shares and call option contracts for 2023 and 2024 expirations. And I'm very excited to see how these investments develop over the next couple of quarters. Again, I think this pullback we're seeing in the cryptocurrency market in general is going to be short-lived. I definitely believe digital currency is the future and where the world and governments around the globe are going to go over the next couple of years. And I think companies like Bitfarms and Hut 8 who are actually mining and producing the underlying asset, in this case Bitcoin, and adding to that overall float are going to bode extremely well as adoption rates continue to grow and we start to see a recovery in the underlying price of Bitcoin itself. So I'd be super curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of these companies if you're currently holding shares and what you think about the overall price of Bitcoin over the next few years. Now, if you're still watching the video at this point, hopefully you found some value, so make sure you hit the like button before you leave. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.